Well, good morning and welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder, and this is BRN AM for Thursday, May 14th, 2020. And here are our top stories: worrying about outliving your savings and a new digital marketplace to purchase an annuity. And joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Matthew Carey. He's the co-founder of Blueprint Income. Matthew, thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Thanks for having me, Jeffrey. Happy to be here.
It's great to talk with you. And first, before we jump into the retirement income discussion and what you all are doing in regards to Blueprint, how are things going in terms of the pandemic? How's it working remotely? All those kind of good things.
You know, holding up as well as can be expected. Definitely a couple silver linings of getting a chance to spend more time with family and not having a long commute in and out of the office. But definitely eager to go see my colleagues again when the time comes, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we're all doing Zoom meetings and Skype meetings and WebExes and Microsoft Teams and any of the brands I forgot to mention. But Matt, let's just jump right into it, because retirement income, we had the passage of the Secure Act, which seems like ages ago, right? I mean, it almost seems like 2 decades ago. Now we're into the CARES Act, but eventually we'll get back into the basis of the Secure Act. But give us your take on retirement income, why it's important, why people should be thinking about this.
I think there's been a very big shift in how an individual has responsibility for their own retirement. So, you know, I spent a couple of years at the U.S. Treasury Department focused on retirement policy. And at the beginning of that period is when I had a real aha moment, which is, yes, maybe the fact that 401ks have come about and pensions have largely declined is a good thing for individuals when they're looking to accumulate money and they want more choice. And obviously it's a good thing for employers because they don't have the risk of pensions anymore. And it's a good thing for financial services companies. But what's the impact for the individual? At the end of the day, it basically means that risk that the employer used to have, the individual now has. So if you think about what retirement income is, essentially it's, where's my paycheck coming from after my paycheck from my employer stops? Yeah. And so in the US, we basically have a 2-tiered system. That first tier is Social Security, extremely important. Definitely some challenges that we'll have to work out in the future and in the not too distant future, I think. But that's a system that provides sort of a baseline level of income, largely to avoid being destitute and impoverished in old age. The second part of that system used to be pension. So the employer would say, hey, you worked for us for a really long time. We're going to provide you that paycheck. We're going to make sure it keeps coming once you retire. And that's pretty nice, right? It's pretty complicated for an employer, but for the individual, what does it mean? It means I get a check every month and it comes as long as I'm alive, and I have to plan, month to month, but I don't have to plan 25 years of retirement out and make sure I'm spending the right amount of money. So when we shifted away from that system to the 401k. The 401k is great for investing money, but we haven't yet figured out how to turn it into a vehicle to last through retirement. And that's what retirement income is. And so you alluded to the Secure Act. That's really the main thrust of it. And I think what a lot of policymakers, companies, others are focused on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think this is the Holy Grail. I keep saying that. I'm trying to come up with a new catchphrase, but this is something that I think everybody is trying to figure out. And that drawdown, to your point, most people, myself included, you're not going to, first of all, we don't know how long we're going to live for. That's number one. But we do know that many, many, many Americans are going to live for a long period of time. So we are going to live beyond the 7 or 8 years that I think when Social Security was founded, it was kind of predicated on that 7 or 8 years mortality. Now we're going to, and you're the Treasury official, so I shouldn't think that I know everything, but you jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. But now here we are living decades, sometimes 3 decades. If we retired at age 65, we could live until 90. And I got to think that this is really the Rubik's Cube. I mean, right? For you and the folks at Blueprint Income, this is really the Rubik's Cube.
It's I think going to be one of the defining challenges and probably the defining challenge when it comes to personal finance over the next couple generations. I think we've made massive strides in terms of making a 401k work better for employees through things like auto enrollment, auto escalation. but we're just scratching the surface now of retirement income. And as you alluded to, it's such a hard problem because we don't know how long we're going to live. I was recently reading some academic research, and the standard deviation of your life expectancy is about 15 years. And so basically what that means is that you don't have high confidence in how long you're going to live. And so it becomes impossible to plan, right? If you say, okay, I'm only going to plan for a 10-year retirement, what happens when you're alive at year 11? Or you say, I'm going to plan for a 40-year retirement because I'm going to be really conservative. What if that only means that you can be living off of $25,000 when if you maybe had a more realistic assumption, you'd be living off more? And so I think the real key insight is not make sure you make the right guess. I think it's providing products that last as long as you do. I think that's definitely part of the equation, and really just getting people more. It's not even about products really. It's about getting people to think about what the outcome that they want is, and the outcome that they want is not saving a nest egg. The outcome that they want is having a certain standard of living. So it's really income that's the most important thing for people to think about. And I think we've sort of lost that in the way that the system has migrated.
I would tend to agree. I mean, it's all about accumulation. We haven't even thought up until now about the decumulation. I mean, there've been research, as you alluded to, and people in the various administrations and the Congress thinking about these things. But one of the things, Matt, and we've got about a minute and a half left in this segment, but I think about those catastrophic costs, healthcare, right? Healthcare is going to cost even more than it does today. We don't even know what the impact is going to be as a result of this pandemic on the healthcare system. We know it's probably not going to be good, but healthcare costs were already trending up. That is probably the biggest expense, or one of the biggest expenses as we age. And so you're absolutely right. I mean, you get to year 11 or year 16 in your example, and you make it. That's great. You're around for another year beyond what your standard deviation of mortality was. Now you've got this big health cost, you and your spouse, significant other. That is a huge challenge.
I think that's right. It's a multifaceted problem, and the reason it's so hard, especially right around the time you're retiring, is because think about it. Your income for the first, from age 18 to age 65, let's call it, is almost exclusively from employment, right? You might get a little bit from dividends, or investment income, but largely it's from employment. And once you retire, you're fully reliant on what happens in the market. So all of a sudden, when you can least afford to make back, a 2008 or a March 2020, that's when you're most, exposed to that kind of risk. So the people who retire in 2008, you have to be taking money out of your account. It's essentially selling at the low because you have to be living off of it if you're relying on a market-based portfolio.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Matt, I want to hold you over. When we come back, we'll talk to Matt about Blueprint Income, what that looks like, the development of that team, and also the partnership with AARP. So stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
The windows on our homes, they protect us and the ones we love, but they do much more. At Renewal by Andersen, making your home more comfortable is at the center of every window we make. It's why we custom build our windows in America and install them in as little as 1 day. It's why we build our frames with exclusive Fibrex composite material that's 2 times stronger than vinyl. It's why our glass helps keep your home warmer in winter, cooler in summer, and quieter all year long. It's why we stand behind every window with a 20-year limited warranty. Why not help lower your energy costs while giving your home and family the best? Call 1-800-835-6525 to schedule a free in-home consultation. Buy one, get one at 40% off with this special offer. Plus, get special financing with no money down, no monthly payments, and no interest for 1 full year. Renewal by Andersen, the better way to a better window. Call 1-800-835-6525 now.
Welcome back. We're talking to Matthew Carey. He is the co-founder of Blueprint Income. Matt, thanks so much for sticking around with us this morning.
Great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to have you. So let's talk about Blueprint Income. You already talked about how you worked at the Treasury. You had this epiphany, this eye-opener that said, we need to work on retirement income. But tell us about the Blueprint team and what is different, what's unique, and why.
We started the business basically as a modern way to buy yourself a pension. So if your employer is not going to provide one anymore, you should buy one for yourself if it makes sense for your financial situation. But the annuity was the way to do that that we saw in the market. But the way it was sold was, we thought, somewhat antiquated. A lot of face-to-face, mostly large purchase sizes, so only a certain segment of the population had exposure to the information. And we felt like with better technology, we could make it accessible to everyone. And that was really the genesis of the business. So I left the Treasury, went to the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, kind of as a way to meet co-founders. My wife was going to school at the same time, and I said, I'll go, but I really want to be focused on starting this business. And I met 2 co-founders and dropped out of the program and started the business from there. Typical startup, we worked out of an apartment at the very beginning in 2014, and then moved to New York in 2015, grew the team, added some actuaries, software engineers, and really now the business is focused on continuing to build out new kinds of experiences for our customers. So new kinds of ways to access the simplest kind of annuity products that are available in the market. We work now with about 30 insurers, and we have access to their fixed rate products and their fixed income products. Mm-hmm. And a big focus for us is just building out the software so that people can quickly compare across insurers if they want to change a feature, what that looks like, sort of taking the pain and some of the cumbersome things out of the process.
Yeah, I mean, and you talk about this. I like what you mentioned about access, because if you're working with a financial advisor, and a lot of these products are driven through the financial advisor community, and that's not a good thing or a bad thing. It's just the reality. And people, they oftentimes pay a commission, and as a result, it depends. A lot of it's predicated on how much money you have in order to annuitize. But there may be people, especially in the lower part of the socioeconomic spectrum, who have some money, want to have some or all of it annuitized so that they have a stream of income, but they may not get the attention. And actually what you're describing to me, when I was first listening to you talk about it, it kind of sounds like what I do for auto insurance, or what I do for, the health exchange now, the Affordable Care Act exchange, where I can go and compare a plethora of different products, right? Is that similar?
Definitely, very similar. And I think it's good for the market writ large. We have a lot of people who come to us, and as much as we wish they didn't, they come, compare prices, and then like the assurance of finding a local advisor. And and I think that's generally good for the market. We're sort of targeting a different segment. So both kind of that segment that's looking to purchase less and buy it over time. So think about, a lot of e-commerce companies, it's a subscription rather than a one-time purchase. And so we do that through a product called the personal pension. And then also people who just tend to be more DIY. So people who might have access to a financial advisor based on their level of wealth, but they just tend to want to do it on their own. And we've really found a niche there that it's growing pretty significantly. And I think as sort of the population that turns 65 continues to become more and more savvy with technology and using more digital tools to buy things like Medicare supplement, you alluded to the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare exchange, those sorts of things I think are all kind of like part of a broader trend, which is everybody wants more transparent information, and some execute the sale through us, some execute it elsewhere. But I think that definitely kind of where we are is I think where the market is headed, and I think an important piece of the puzzle.
And you mentioned kind of the maturing population, and those are people that I would think would have an interest in secure retirement income. And you recently have partnered with AARP. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that kind of evolved and what that looks like? Because that's a really important population of folks. I mean, they have millions and millions and millions of people who are at or near retirement or into retirement.
That's right. We're extremely excited about the launch of the AARP annuity marketplace powered by Blueprint Income. We are now able to access AARP's 38 million members. Wow. And that I think we really feel like it's an important service that we're providing, that someone has choice from 7 different insurers, all rated A++ or A+. So these are household names like New York Life, Guardian Life, Principal, Pacific Life, and a few others. Mm-hmm. And I think what we've seen is that people really just want information to start the process, and so we are really focused on building really useful content. Objective content, talks about the pros and the cons, talks about how it fits into a broader portfolio, talks about the ways that an annuity could be really useful, but also the ways that it really doesn't usually make sense, and really focus on sort of the simplest aspects of it. The thing that an annuity provides that nothing else does is guaranteed lifetime income stream. And so at the end of the day, that's really where we focus in thinking about the products that make most sense for individuals.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it sounds amazing. And I love the fact that you bring that agnostic, you're not here to sell a particular product. You're here to provide a service and a lot of education. Really important. Matt, in the last minute and a half, 2 minutes we have, I wanted to talk about Secure. We started off talking about Secure, but any thoughts about taking what you're doing for AARP in partnership with AARP, I can't talk right now, and applying it to retirement plans like 401k, 403b, 457? Does that show up in your future plans?
I think it's a really interesting opportunity. The way I think about it is in the 1980s, when the 401k was just being crafted. I think most people don't know this. There was a great article in the Wall Street Journal, maybe 2017, 2018, about the unintended consequences of the 401k. But originally, the 401k was really just a way for executives who were high earners to put more money away on a tax-deferred basis. It wasn't meant to become this default system. But I think back to that time period when it was just coming about. I think the right answer in the long run for our retirement security would have been to create sort of a hybrid. So if employers want to get rid of their defined benefit plan, how about the employer match go through annuity product? So the employer gets rid of the liability on their balance sheet, but they're able to still provide that retirement income, which is the purpose of a retirement plan in the first place. So they know when they're providing that match, which is costly for the employer, they know that the employee is not going to go, rate it early and buy a boat or do something reckless with it, and maybe pay a penalty to the IRS. And so I think, long way of saying, I think it's a natural home for annuity products, and the fact that to date there really hasn't been much by way of annuity access inside of a 401k doesn't make a ton of sense. And so, we do think it's an exciting opportunity. As you know, the 401k market is not a simple one in terms of there's lots of players in the space, quite a bit of complexity, and it's sort of a different ballgame than offering a product on a retail basis. But we are excited about it. We do think that there's clear signals from Washington about how retirement plans are going to need to change and evolve for their participants. And so we're really excited about that. And I think things like not just better access to annuities and 401ks, but also things like the retirement income disclosure. So what we were talking about earlier, forcing everyone to see every year, here's what it looks like in terms of income that I'm going to get from my plan. It just gets people in that mindset that I think will open up a lot of opportunities down the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Matt, always a pleasure chatting with you. Best of luck on Blueprint Income, but also the relationship with AARP. And we'll look forward to checking back in with you later on this year.
Great. Thanks for having me.
And that wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest or someone you think we should talk to? Drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the news in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, and so much more, check out today's edition of The Morning Pulse. So until tomorrow, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Attention! The Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services has officially authorized new benefits that Medicare Advantage plans may include. To get the benefits you deserve, you can call the Medicare Coverage Helpline.
Hi, I'm Joe Namath. If you're on Medicare, this is important information. I called the Medicare Coverage Helpline and they instantly looked up my coverage. In this one simple call, they offered to enroll me in a plan that includes rides to medical appointments, private home aides, doctors and nurses' visits by telephone, and even home-delivered meals. The plan also includes dental, vision, hearing, and prescription drug coverage, all at no additional cost.
Don't delay. Call to see if the new benefits are available in your area.
Call the number on your screen now. It's free.
Call 1-800-757-1451. That's 1-800-757-1451.